PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello there, and welcome to the Sunday Morning Chat Series with Jesse Oakley III. And this is your host, Jesse Oakley III. And the purpose of the Sunday Morning Chat Series is to interview a plethora of positive people that are making big differences in their community. Whether they're singers, entertainers, athletes, anybody that's making a big difference in the community, you'll hear from them first on the Sunday Morning Chat Series with Jesse Oakley III. Now, I am a volunteer for an organization called the American Red Cross, and we make big differences all over the Las Vegas Valley. And there are other organizations out there in the world, let alone the nations, that are also making big differences and reaching out to community and also getting a chance to have that extra hand that's available for many people at large. And for today's interview, I have with me Mr. Tyree Johnson Jr., a coordinator from the Mayor's Youth Empowerment and Education Program, or MYEEP. Hello, Tyree. How's it going?
Really good, Jesse. It's been a while. I always enjoy being in your company. I look forward to really talking about some positive things that are going on.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. And without further delay, let's chat.
All right.
All right. And the first question for you is, what is the premise of MYEEP? What is the premise of that organization?
So first off, I want to say it's known as MYEEP. Everybody just shortened it as MYEEP. And MYEEP stands for, as you said, Mayor's Youth Employment and Education Program. It is a section of a workforce development for youth under a nonprofit called JCYC, the Japanese Community Youth Council. And so what I basically do is be part of the community, and I'm the only coordinator who actually works at the high school. So I'm ground level with the youth, but I have to go out to the community to find the work sites. And basically what I do is, one, find the work sites and help match the youth up with them. But I also run workshops with the youth so that they get the life skills, the financial literacy, as well as the confidence. I always use this mantra for them. I ask them to put their hands in front of their chest, and I said, I want you to have the confidence and the competence to communicate clearly.
All right, fantastic. That's truly fantastic about MYEEP. Now, how did you get your start in MYEEP? How did it begin for you?
Well, it's an interesting story in that it really ties my journey with Toastmasters together. I had been in the trio and still worked really hard with District 57. And professionally, I was serving as a budget director for the Pacific Maritime Association. But in the 2009, 10, and 11 years, the economy still hadn't quite recovered in that maritime and logistics thing. And my budget went from 40 million down to less than 5 million, and so did my staff. Eventually, I was let go. So I was doing some contract work and some admin stuff, and I was also volunteering at my church. And my church was the first church that started hosting youth for the MYEEP program. And I interacted with them just on an ad hoc basis. But the coordinator then at the time, who's a good friend of mine, I'll give her a shout out, Eyelid Patangan Swan, said, Tyree, I think you'd be good at that. I have a whole nother story why I wanted to reject it, particularly from scars from me being in junior high school, but that's another story for tall tales.
Right.
But I will say that I really didn't want to feel like doing it, but it was something that I thought was going to tide me over. But when I learned that I was also going to do some training and share communication skills with some young people, they're basically between the ages of 14 and 17, I saw that I had an added purpose for being in Toastmasters and using what the Toastmasters background and skill set has. And all the value, our main values, particularly integrity and respect, service with excellence, really rings true when you work with young people.
That is definitely true. And another question I do have for you is, what are some of the benefits when it comes to being a volunteer in MYEEP that what we just have?
Well, one of them is, and I stated earlier, I really have grown to appreciate having my office on site at Balboa High School here in San Francisco. Like I said, my colleagues work for other agencies, and so their offices are off site and the youth come to them. I'm there, they can come to me. And I always say, you know what, guys, if you were the ops, I'd get you every day. But the advantages for me are that, again, it makes me on ground level with the youth and helps me deliver my message to the work sites in the community to say, here's your opportunity to really invest in a very tangible way in your future. And you don't have to keep them for the whole time, though I have a lot of success stories of youth who've gone on and moved out of my program and got hired by them. But others didn't, and they got the life lesson.
Right. And speaking of success stories and best moments, what were some of the best moments you experienced when working with MYEEP?
You know, one of them is a young man by the name of Hung Yi. I always talk about Hung Yi because when I brought him into my program, one, he was toward the bottom of my list. And actually, he was an add-on somebody else dropped off. And on his application, he did indicate that he wasn't very fluent with his English. And he really struggled to communicate with getting the words and everything. But the thing I grew to appreciate with Hung Yi was he put in extra effort to be heard and understand what I was saying. And all the time, sometimes it may have seemed like a big time wrestling match with words and ideas, but I appreciate the effort he put in to hang in there. I've worked with both adults and children that pretty much give up sometimes, or sometimes even though you want to rely on like Google Translate, which is a tool now, it really doesn't go to the level of fostering understanding. And when someone is really willing to put in an extra effort of understanding, either writing out, drawing a picture, Hung Yi would draw me a picture of what he was saying. He's now finishing up in junior college, and he's looking forward to being a preschool teacher. But he and I stay in touch. And the main thing is we kind of laugh and smile of different simple phrases that he and I both struggled to communicate on, but he stayed with it. And I'm really glad that he and I both have that in common.
Fantastic story. That is truly amazing to see what MYEEP can do for so many people, especially that wonderful individual right there. Now, another question I have for you. Let's say that someone is seeing what you're doing with MYEEP, and they are inspired, and they say, you know what, that Tyree, he's a dynamo when it comes to this organization. He's basically reaching out and touching hands and touching hearts with MYEEP, and they want to do what you're doing. If you can offer any advice to that person that you talk to who wants to be in your shoes, what advice would that be?
One, I would say, don't quit your day job. To be honest, okay? It has a lot of rewards. They may not be tangible or financial inward, but if you really want to see how you make a difference, and I can tell you where I see the difference for me now is the growth in my LinkedIn network. I have a lot of young people who are in their early 20s starting off their career, but were with me 8, 10, 7 years ago. They've completed college. They've done some internships maybe and stuff. They're looking at their first job, and they're looking for a letter of recommendation. Some of them are looking for career advice. And so if I would say someone who would be interested in doing this is, one, feel grounded in who you are and be ready to have your message together, but come down to someone else's level. Now, when I say that, particularly when I work with youth, I say you don't have to lower your standards.
Right.
You can just lower your attention to detail for listening. Okay, but I always, this is one of the things that, and everybody in MYEEP knows this is when I introduce myself, I stand and deliver. I expect that from my youth in their class, because believe it or not, at all times, but certainly in these times, I believe that you're going to have to stand up, account for yourself, make yourself known, have your voice heard, and let people know what you stand for. And if you practice that, and it makes it natural, when the time comes, that crucial moment, that moment of truth, you can deliver. And I say the flip side of that is, and this is what when I wear in my workshops, I always slow somebody down and ask them a simple question like, what did you say, or whatever. And I always ask them, let's stop, you stand and deliver. And I ask the audience, the rest of the workshop, to start practicing active listening. So it's not always just you, the messenger, delivering. You have to prep an audience, and an audience has to be prepared to listen. And with young people, and certainly we've all seen it with adults too, you're ready, your audience isn't. So I just do that so that we know that communication is a big envelope, and it's more than just two-way. It can go up and down, left and right, whatever, but you need all elements to be engaged.
That is definitely true. All elements to be engaged in. You hit the nail right on the head with those words of wisdom. Now, speaking of MYEEP, there's so many people that are probably interested, that are watching this video and this podcast, that are interested in knowing more about MYEEP. How can one know more about MYEEP? What can I actually go to?
You can go to our website, which is www. And it's actually go to jcycworkhub.org. And then it will send you to MYEEP. We do have our own separate website, but when you go to jcycworkhub.org, that will expose you to all of the different youth workforce programs that we're involved in. So really quickly, MYEEP, I focus during school year with 14 and 15-year-olds.
Right.
The auxiliary program is called SF Youth Works. They work with 16 and 17-year-olds. And I can tell you, having worked with the two, you can tell the difference in the maturity and confidence level between a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old, and the kind of assignments you may give. So you can find out, and this is the other difference, I would say, with MYEEP, and why I really like it is I find work sites and work opportunities in the community. So I live in what they call the OMI and Excelsior district.
Okay.
YouthWorks finds assignments with the city agencies. So you could work, it doesn't matter where you live, but you could work for the Department of Health, the Department of Public Works, City Hall, the Treasurer's Office, whatever. So two different, pays the same, different type of work experiences.
All right. That's good to know. And could you give the website one more time that you just
mentioned? One more time, it is www.jcycworkhub, all one word, .org.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Now, this is portion of our interview is a shout out portion. It gives you a chance to shout out as many people as you possibly can. If you can give a shout out to as many people as possibly can within your MYEEP experience, who would you like to give a shout out to?
First would be Alvin Wu, who was the director who hired me. My current associate director, Ayako Swanabari. Markar Bamba, who does the youth development side, I really enjoy. She and I have been in partnership since I joined, and I've watched her journey as she's gone. Lizette Gray and Lori Tran, they're the OGs. They started before me. They've been at it a long time. So they understand when I say the struggle's real.
All right. Great group of people that are right there. Now, my last question for you is addressed to my crowd who watches this podcast every episode. And my crowd and my crew is called the Happy People. And they always love some great words of wisdoms at the end from the people that I've interviewed. So if you have any wise words of wisdom for my crew, my people, the Happy People, what would it be?
I have three. One is I always share the quote by the French philosopher Henri Bergson, who said, "Think like a man of action, act like a man of thought." I also like quoting Micah 6:8, who said, "Walk humbly, act justly, and follow your God." And last but not least, I want to quote my father, Etzel Tyree Johnson Sr., who said, "Son, never order chicken at the steakhouse."
Oh my goodness, that is a perfect bookend to a wonderful episode for the Sunday Morning Chat Series with Jesse Oakley III. And on behalf of all the happy people that are watching this, Tyree Johnson, I want to thank you for taking the time out to be on this episode of the Sunday Morning Chat Series. Thank you, my man.
Thank you, Jesse. Anytime.
All right, and this concludes this episode of the Sunday Morning Chat Series with Jesse Oakley III. For more information on Sunday Morning Chat Series with Jesse Oakley III, you can go to prconnectionsradio.com and you can also check out the YouTube channel for PR Connections. But wait, there's more. You can also check out a brand new YouTube page that's out called Sunday Morning Chat Series with Jesse Oakley III, where you can see my past interviews of positive people that are making big differences in their community. Just type in Sunday Morning Chat Series with Jesse Oakley III and subscribe, like, comment, and share the past interviews I've done about positive people making big difference in their communities. This is Jesse Oakley III speaking for the Sunday Morning Chat Series. And stick around and wait for our next episode next Sunday at 9 a.m. Until next time, you take care of yourselves and have a good day, happy people. Bye.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.